Welcome to Power Politics, where we prepare you for your next political conversation. I'm Jerónimo Cortina, political science professor at the University of Houston.
And I'm Brandon Rottinghaus, also a political science professor here at the University of Houston. Thanks for hanging out with us and talking politics. A big week. Lots of people are quitting. Lots of people are running. And maybe the government will shut down. The usual kind of chaos that surrounds the maelstrom of September, right? So Here we are. Let's start with actually big news coming out of Harris County, and that's that Judge Lina Hidalgo has decided not to run for re-election. It probably was something she telegraphed long ago by, not raising any money and being kind of generally combative with her colleagues. So perhaps it was sort of writing on the wall for a long time, but it obviously has implications for not just the kind of budget for Harris County, which is being debated literally almost as we're talking, but also just kind of her legacy as county judge. So let's talk about that first. Like, what is her legacy as county judge after 2 terms in office and, a lot of political controversy?
Well, I think on the one hand, we have baptism by fire. Just like, welcome and suddenly...
You're 27, welcome to, kind of the fireball.
Well, the fireball, but also all natural disasters, right? Not only natural disasters, but also a bunch of different problems in terms of politics with Austin, internal politics with former Mayor Sylvester Turner, now with Meyer. So that propel you to be running immediately. Also, and kudos to her, her issues with mental health and disclosing them pretty open, which is I think a very courageous step that many other politicians from different ideological stances have taken. So that's also very good. And yes, as you say, very combative in terms. But I think that what it struck to me, obviously in the last couple of weeks and months, is that is exactly what is happening with the Democratic Party, right? It's Lina Hidalgo, very progressive, trying to assert a different way of doing policy in comparison to what we consider, for example, more moderate Democrats like the rest of the court.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, that kind of friction has been on display the last year plus, and we're certainly seeing it play out in terms of budget fights. But I think her real legacy here, as you said, is a number of things. The first is that it turned the role of the Harris County judge from being an administrator to being an activist. So most people didn't realize who their county judge was or what the county judge did before Lina Hidalgo came around. And although Judge Emmett did a great job in lots of different ways, especially through natural disasters, people simply didn't really know what he was doing all day. And Commissioner's Court was kind of this sort of unknown entity. But this all changed with her election, and it clearly pushed it into a much more progressive direction. With her election, the sort of balance of power shifted to the Democrats, and although it hasn't been a kind of natural progression in terms of the liberalness of the policies, there's certainly been a movement in that direction. So that definitely is a big movement. But also, it kind of puts progressive politics on full display. Now, that obviously invites a lot of controversy, as it did, but it certainly meant that, she was this new kind of figure that was going to be the future of the Democratic Party. Maybe she won't be, but sort of her kind of likeness will be, right? Kind of younger, more progressive, right? Often like Latino. And so that means that you're seeing a kind of real change in that perspective. So that, I think, is one of the biggest types things that we're seeing from sort of her activities, but they were many. The policy changes were pretty big, right? Changes to the jail, controversies over COVID-19 and mask mandates, right? She got in kind of, some political hot water for all those things. So this was definitely, I think a really sort of impressive moment for Democratic Party politics, but also for kind of progressive politics in Harris County. Now, obviously, I think too, kind of efforts to try to improve civic engagement and to try to expand the vote were stopped by the state and probably exaggerated some of the state versus local conflict that we see. And it's not her fault, of course, but just that dimension was really magnified by the way that the state viewed Harris County and her position in it. So there's a lot of things there that made it, much more sort of Controversial, right? I guess the question here is, will her legacy last beyond her moment? Will we see the next set of Democratic leaders follow? Will we see a reaction to this from Republican officials who may win? So what's to come?